This is The Handle with Matt Brown and Mike Somich on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hour number 3 of The Handle here on VSiN. Matt and Mike coming to you from Circa. LSU punches it in 14-7 now with 6 minutes left in the second quarter. They are 3.5-point live favorites. 55.5 is the total if you think Florida State comes all the way back, plus 160 on the money line for this one. Mike, again, we're pulling double duty here. We're kind of being able to watch when we can watch. When we have been able to watch, it does seem like LSU has been the better team so far in this game.
It does. And when you dive into the box score and the play-by-play, it backs that up as well. Stopped on downs twice, once at the Florida State 1-yard line, the other time at the Florida State 13-yard line. Florida State really missed a massive opportunity. You get a muff punt from LSU. Florida State takes over at LSU's 22-yard line. Boom. Interception, first play. LSU gets the momentum right back. And you could feel that LSU score coming too. Even after the punt lands there at the 1, you feel like Florida State really has to make a play. Lucky not to throw an interception in the red zone. They punted away. LSU goes right back down the field. If you take away the red zone plays, I bet LSU's averaging like 10.5 yards a play right now.
I mean, it really, we're kind of having to watch, between breaks and stuff like that. But it does look like they have been the better team so far. And I'm kind of looking on the Twitter machine as well. A lot of the people who are unbiased are actually saying LSU looks like the superior team in this contest. The score doesn't reflect that, but it does look like they are the better team here. So again, 14-7, 3.5 on the live line in favor of LSU. Let's talk the NFC here. Listen, NFC East is pretty interesting because we do not have the same two teams, and that's crazy to me because it's the best team in the NFL. It's the Eagles, and you do not have the Eagles at the top here. I go Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, and you have Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders when it comes to your finish here. You got some splaining to do here. Tell me about this Cowboys team and what makes you think they're going to take down the Eagles?
Well, I figured I had to represent Dave Ross properly here on the handle, right? You got to put the Cowboys. Look, Dak only played 12 games last year. It's still a team that won 12 football games. Dallas is going to be better this year than last year. I love the upgrade from Ezekiel Elliott to Tony Pollard as the number 1 running back. I like the fact that we go out, we get a number 2 cornerback, we get a number 2 wide receiver. The big question here is the OC switch. I'm worried what this offense is going to look like, but if they are able to continue to sling it and air it out and Dak plays 17 games, this is a team that could win 13, 14 football games. And if they do, that puts Philadelphia behind the 8 ball to be able to win the division. I do think Philadelphia is very good, but I also question whether or not they're going to be able to replicate the first half success that they had last year. This team is built to get an early lead and then hold on to that lead. And last year, against a terrible schedule, they were able to get an early lead and hold on to it. The schedule is more difficult. People have a full summer to figure out how to play call against them. I just don't want to take them at minus 135 in a division where I think they have a light competitor here. And I, by the way, have the Eagles number 2 in the NFL preseason power rankings. I've got the Cowboys number 4. So I've got both of these in my top 4 in the NFL.
Yeah, so I think the more interesting way that I would like to bet Dallas, because, by the way, I have Dallas as the second best team in the NFC, behind only the Eagles. They just happen to play in the same division. The over 10.5, I actually got a ticket on the Cowboys at over 9.5. Like the 10.5 right now, to me, at the over at plus 115, I would almost go that way with it because I think that this team could win 12 or 13 games and still, in theory, not win this division, right? I mean, I think that a 12 or 13 win team could still be behind a 14-win Eagles squad when it's all said and done. And so getting the plus money on the 10.5, I think is at least fairly interesting when it comes to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with you there. This isn't also one where I would look at the exact result. If you like the Eagles to win the division, you get an exacta, Eagles over Cowboys. If you like the Cowboys, play an exacta, Cowboys over Eagles. Because you're going to get a better price if you play either of those exactas than just one to win the division. And I would argue, I think we both agree, it's highly unlikely the Giants or the Commanders here finish second in this division.
Yeah, and because of the teams they have to leapfrog, right? That's the biggest thing here. It's not necessarily, I am kind of down on the Commanders, but I mean, it's not that I think the Commanders are going to be terrible or that the Giants are going to be terrible. It's that you have to jump over the teams that I have literally power rated 1 and 2 in the entire NFC. And so that's why I see the scenario being incredibly unlikely. That said, with the Giants, is there a world that exists, though, that this Giants team, which we know played its way into the playoffs last year, a lot of close games, but I think that can be a good thing. I know everyone always looks at these close games that you win and say, well, regression has to set in. It's going to go the other way. Well, you know what? Maybe those were coaching decisions that Brian Daboll made somewhere along the way, right? Like maybe these were the little things that he did to kind of engineer these close wins as opposed to them just being lucky. Is there a world exist that we see the Giants as a 10-win squad this year?
Yes, I think so. I mean, you look, Brian Dable, I believe in him. I bet him coach of the year last year, was happy to cash that ticket. I had the over on the Giants last year. I believe this Daniel Jones contract isn't that bad. I think I'm the only person in the world, but the team has an out after 2 years. And do you really want to develop the quarterback and then say, okay, goodbye, someone else can use your services now? No. You got Saquon Barkley back for a year. I love the Darren Waller pickup at tight end. I think that's a solid pickup.
And everything you hear is that he is like lighting it up, and him and Daniel Jones have instant rapport and all that stuff.
You got Jalen Hyatt on the outside, who's an explosive, like blow the top off of a defense kind of wide receiver. Yeah, look, I could see a very bullish case here for the Giants. The division's a problem. The schedule's harder. They got lucky, quote unquote, lucky last year. But to me, I think there's a pretty big gap between 3 and 4.
Yeah, the Commanders is a team that I've talked about a division when I was talking about the AFC North that I wanted nothing to do with. It's the Commanders that I want nothing to do with from a team standpoint, because I am very, very confused as to how this team is going to look. I mean, if you look, Sam Howell has some pretty decent weapons to work with here, right? I mean, Robinson and Gibson as your 1-2 punch there at the running back position. At the wide receiver position, John Dodson, you got McLaurin, you got Samuel. I mean, these are all playmakers. I mean, Terry McLaurin's figured out a way to have 1,000-yard seasons with like whatever they've been throwing back there at quarterback and all the stuff, trying to catch passes from 14 different guys, and he's still able to go ahead. I mean, the 17th ranked wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus last year out of 113 qualifiers. I mean, like, this guy's a really good receiver, and now with a guy like Howell, who I think is at least, well, we know stability is good at the position, but I think is at least a slight upgrade to what they've had over the last couple of years. It would not surprise me if this team wasn't as bad as I think that they're going to be, but I just do have a little bit of questions about Sam Howell.
If Sam Howell's a downgrade from Carson Wentz, we've got a problem in Washington. We'll just put it that way. Look, my two biggest issues here are Sam Howell, who I don't really believe in, and Ron Rivera, who is probably clearly the worst coach in this division, right? And so you have a coach and quarterback problem, two of the most important things in a football team. Hard to really get behind Washington. Now, good defense, though.
Right.
The front line should be very solid. They're going to keep themselves in football games. The question is Sam Howell going to be able to execute down the stretch to be able to lock these wins in the W column, or is he going to fall apart a little bit? And I'm not a Sam Howell believer, and that makes me out on the Commanders.
I have circled this team as a team that I do want to look at whenever they're big dogs in games, because like you said, this defense is good. And as so long as Sam Howell's not a train wreck, I think this team's at least going to be in games. They just probably won't win a lot of games. If you catch my, I mean, the defense is legit. I don't think they're going to be looking up at a ton of like big deficits.
They're a dog or pass team. I am not betting them week 1 against Arizona. Right. I may bet Arizona plus the 7. I am not betting Washington laying 7 points there. If they're catching 7, I'm a lot more interested because again, the defense is going to be tough.
NFC North is a pretty interesting division because this is the one I think that the consensus has started to break up here a lot. I mean, it was Lions forever. Now there's a lot of people who have come around saying, you know what, maybe not. Maybe it's not the Lions after all. I mean, it is for me still Jared Goff playing quarterback for the Detroit Lions last time I checked, and I get it. He was much better last year, but I have these memories of Jared Goff and all the plays that he was doing out there in LA, and I just can't shake that. This Viking squad is the same thing as the Giants, right? Everyone looks at the Vikings and say, all these one-score games, there's no way it can happen again. Well, okay, they won 13 games last year, Mike. Let's say that all the one-score games don't happen again, and it cost them 2 additional games. They still would have won. That would still mean 11 wins for the team, right? I mean, like, so I look at this Vikings team. I think they're being looked at. I think it's addition by subtraction going from Thielen to Jordan Addison. I mean, Kirk Cousins, whatever you think of Kirk Cousins, he is above average league quarterback, right? And like there are some really bad quarterbacks in the NFL, and Kirk Cousins is not one of those. And so you might not think he's great. I don't think he's great, but he's certainly above average and probably at least borderline good. And so I have the Vikings winning the division.
Look, 3 of these 4 teams are narrative teams.
Yeah.
Right? The Packers, the Lions, and the Bears, all narrative based. The Vikings are a known quantity. We know what the Vikings are. Yeah, they won a bunch of games last year, 11-0 one-score games. Their Pythagorean win was closer to 8 than it was 13. But you know what? They're bringing everybody back. Yeah. They're kind of running it back. I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is a 10-11 win team and that they have a little luck against the variance again because they're built to be able to come back in games. They have, like you said, Kirk Cousins. They've got Justin Jefferson. They added Addison. They can move the football down the field. Yeah, their defense stinks. Everyone's defense in this division stinks except for the Green Bay Packers. So give me the Green Bay Packers.
I bet where you're going. All right.
I feel like that's a nice little transition there.
I like it. Came all the way full circle there on the team that you said has the good defense. So we both do have the Bears in 4th, and Bears were getting a lot of love in the offseason. And This was a 3-win team a year ago, yet everyone is like freaking out and has this Bears team doing so much better. Now, I don't think that they're going to be atrocious. I just don't think they're going to be very good. I don't get all of the love, and I don't think that we're going to see Justin Fields just overnight become a good passer. Yes, the offense was more efficient towards the end of the season, but it was because they were just calling plays for him to run the ball more, right? I mean, that's what was going on. It wasn't necessarily that he was throwing the ball that much better. You could point, and this is a fair criticism, so I will give this. He didn't have any receivers, and I will say that. But now he does, so really no excuses.
Does he? He's got DJ Moore. I'm not a Chase Claypool guy, right? And so he added Chase Claypool midway through the season. Pittsburgh's pretty good at this receiver thing. I don't know if you've noticed that through the years. They've been pretty solid at drafting receivers. They're like, bye, Chase. Bye, Chase. See you later.
Have a good one.
Look, DJ Moore, quality receiver. Like him coming in. The problem, Justin Fields is ranked 31st of 31 of 34 quarterbacks on PFF's throwing rating from last year. He needs to not just improve, he needs to make a massive leap for this Bears team to be competitive, and the defense is still not good.
They did add some pieces, though.
They've added linebackers.
Let's play some devil's advocate here. They did add some pieces. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last year, but again, I just don't see a world in which they're not the fourth place team.
How are the Packers and the Bears the same price?
Yeah. I know.
That to me, every time I see this, it blows me away. The Lions, I think, look, they were hot to end the season there. They were awful early. We'll talk about them as we prep the first week 1 games. They've got a tough matchup against Kansas City. It's all about this defense and if they can take a step forward.
We will talk the NFC South and the NFC West. The NFC South, who do we think is actually going to win this thing in a division that none of these teams are likely going to be all that great? When we come back here on The Handle. NFC South, and this is a very interesting division, mainly because we don't have any proven anything in this division. New quarterback for the Saints, new quarterback for the Panthers, new quarterback for the Bucs, and new quarterback for the Falcons as well. Desmond Ridder did get a little bit of time last year, but first time as a full-time starter for them. And so up and down, there's just a lot of question marks really about every single team here, Mike. And like you look at the Saints, and yes, there is at least a track record for Derek Carr in the league, but I don't know if people really like the track record with Derek Carr, and certainly what was the play that we saw towards the end of his stint there for the Raiders, it just looked like his skill set had declined a little bit. Now, is the change of scenery type thing, I know that's the narrative we're hearing, change of scenery, get into New Orleans. There are some weapons there in New Orleans. Certainly if they can get Michael Thomas back to anywhere close to what he used to be, then, pretty decent options for him to throw to there. We both have the Saints, and I'll fully admit, it's just more of a default answer for me here. I don't love any of these teams, and I'm being dead serious, even the Bucs when I say this. At the end of the season, if any one of these teams won this division, I would say, that's about right. That seems right. And that even includes the Bucs because, again, I don't love any of these teams.
I'm calling your bluff.
No,
Baker Mayfield is not winning this division.
In what world, though? In what world would it shock you that the Panthers with a rookie quarterback weren't any good, that Desmond Ridder is actually terrible, that Derek Carr is in fact washed, and then it just comes out that Baker Mayfield only has to play even below league average and can still win this division? I mean, I think that world exists.
I mean, Kyle Trask took him to the finish line for the starting job. Below league average is definitely possible here from Baker Mayfield. They won the division last year. I guess that's the positive if you're the Bucs. And honestly, like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, good weapons on the outside, pretty solid defense still. So a lot of things to like there. I like the Saints here for much the reason you said. You kind of default into them. The defense probably going to be a little bit worse than last year, but still a pretty good defense here. I like the weapons quite a bit. Michael Thomas, we'll see how many games he plays, but he's a solid wide receiver when he's out there. I like Olave quite a bit there. You got Kamara coming off the suspension. He'll be back a little bit later in the season. This is the most talented roster. That's pretty much the bottom line when you look up and down this roster. We're not sure what the Bucs are going to do from a sales perspective. I would expect you're not going to see them be at full strength the entire season, so we'll get a little less the Bucs there. And then you got the Panthers and the Falcons, where you've got Desmond Ridder, who I do not trust. The rest of the pieces in Atlanta are pretty solid, but I just don't trust Desmond Ridder. And then you've got the Panthers, who have a rookie quarterback, and the offense just isn't that good. The defense could be good, but the offense just it leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, and listen, the Bucs do fall in that category of one of the teams that we were talking about, like a Rams, a Titans, in which if the season's going off the rails, they are likely to be sellers. Mike Evans has already come out and said that he wants a new contract. They didn't want to give it to him. He's shut down talks with them. He's not going to talk with them anymore about a contract extension. And listen, he's a declining asset at this point. He's 30 years old. He has an amazing track record. Listen, guys, everyone's going, dude, how can you not pay him? He's had 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And I'm like, because he's been in the league 9 years. And like, if you've been in the league 9 years, then your skill set starts to decline typically when you're a wide receiver. And so, yeah, people don't want to invest a ton of money in him. So they could move him for sure. You could certainly see some of these other guys start to get moved. I mean, there are pieces on that defense, by the way, for sure. And so that's why I do wonder if things are going off the rails for this Bucs team, if they look and go, man, we could get some good stuff for him. We could get some good stuff for him. And like, if we're still 2 years away from any resembling a team that can win, it might be in our best interest to move these guys.
Oh, and you don't have a quarterback either, right? That's the other problem. Trask probably not the long-term answer. Baker Mayfield definitely not the long-term answer. So how do you want to accelerate this rebuild? Well, the best way to do is get something for your assets now and not let them linger there for a couple more years.
So we both have the Saints. We both have the Bucs at the bottom. Falcons and Panthers, we flip-flop those at 2 and 3, but honestly, I don't have any conviction in either one of those teams. It's certainly from a Panthers standpoint, it's kind of a wait and see. We don't really know what they're going to look like with the rookie quarterback. And then even with the Falcons, as much as we think that there are a ton of playmakers there and they should be good, you're gonna lose this bet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're gonna lose this bet, unfortunately. They should be good, but again, Desmond Ridder might be terrible for all we know.
Well, that's the problem I have with and they've gotten so much steam in the offseason too. All these people loving on the Falcons, and I get it. The weapons are solid. You've got Pitts. You're adding Bijan Robinson. It should be one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. I understand all of that. It's just from a market perspective, the price keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter on the Falcons. I can't justify that. Yeah. I can't come to the fact where I think that this Falcons team with Desmond Ridder is going to be able to win the division. We had a sample size at the end of last year. He wasn't good. Maybe he's going to be good all of a sudden, but I need to see it if I'm going to put my money on it.
NFC West, pretty much the easiest one for us to ever put the team at the bottom, and that is going to be the Cardinals. They're going to be the worst team in the NFL. They are likely to be the worst team in the NFL by a good margin. It seems like they're doing the right thing. They're breaking this thing down preseason to where they don't even have to trip and fall and stumble into some wins. And again, this is right. This is the right thing to do. If you're down there in Phoenix, I get it. You don't love that your team is going to be terrible this year, but it is the right thing to do. We both have the Rams in third. We both have the 49ers in second. We both have the Seahawks up top. Our first unanimous one here with the Seahawks, 49ers, Rams, and Cardinals. And I actually feel really, really good about that order.
I do too. Look, I feel like the bottom. It's going to be Arizona. Like Los Angeles Rams seem like they're going to be a solid third place team. I don't see how they end up in second or in fourth. And then it's just a question of, what do you do with Seattle and San Francisco? And we both like the Seattle team. I think they're going to take a big-time step forward in the second year of a lot of these guys. And the fact that they're going to be able to jump up and play better, hopefully on the offensive line. That's really where the key is for Seattle here. It's can this offensive line take the step forward that I think we're both projecting?
Yep.
If they do, this is a really good offense. They've got 2 good running backs. I like the guy out of UCLA. I like Walker. They've got 3 really good wide receivers. You've got Smith and Jigba. You've got Metcalf. You've got Lockett. Like, there are weapons all over the place, and I guess I believe a little bit more in a lot of people in Geno Smith. All you have to do is replicate last year, even 90% of last year, and this team is going to be very good.
You have 2 tackles that played as rookies last year, and typically with offensive linemen, you see them take a step forward in year 2 and then really a big leap in year 3. Well, this is year 2 for these guys who, by the way, were not bad actually as rookies. And so if they do take that step forward, that's a really good thing to have, as 2 really good tackles for a guy like Geno Smith. And as you mentioned, all those other weapons that they have on the offensive side, I really do like the Seahawks. The Rams, and we're not just kind of like saying this as speculating. The Rams were talked about even being sellers in the offseason, right? So these are beat writers who were saying they had heard several different rumors, right, that this could be a team that could move not only some of their like some big name guys. Like they were saying that, you might be hearing Aaron Donald trade rumors and things like that, because Aaron Donald, look, he understands he's on the end of his career and he is going to want to play for a contender, and it looks like the Rams are not going to be a contender for a while. And so I do look at them as kind of sellers as well, which is why I think, like I said, very clear 3 to me, because I just don't see them being as bad as the Cardinals. But I also think that we might be looking at a team here come week 13 and 14 that's really running out there some guys that they're just trying to get a look at for next season.
And you hit the nail on the head. They're not going to be as bad as the Cardinals, and there's no way they're going to be as good as Seattle or San Francisco. So you kind of automatically slot them into that 3 spot. Cooper Kupp already injured. That's a huge problem for them. The depth here is just not there. It's non-existent for the Rams.
Yes.
So as soon as someone gets hurt, you have a massive fall off. They need to avoid injury. We don't really know how good Stafford's going to be either coming back from the elbow injury. So a lot of question marks around the Rams. They seem the perfect fit with the third team. Do you like them at plus 125 to finish third in the division?
I think that's a pretty good bet.
Not bad, right?
I think it's a pretty good bet there whenever you look at the Rams to finish third in the division. The 49ers are the betting favorite, though, minus 160 to win this division. Neither one of us have them there. I've said this. I'm screaming this from a mountaintop all offseason. I'll say this again and prove me wrong. I just can't imagine Brock Purdy is near as good as we saw last year. Again, this is a dude that we did not think was going to play at all. So there was no game plan for this dude whatsoever. And so here he's coming back in with teams having an offseason to prepare for him. Oh, and by the way, he's coming off of an injury. At the most important position in all of sports, I just can't get past it. I understand they're loaded everywhere else. I get it. I just can't get past it.
I bet on him way too many times at Iowa State for myself to be able to then back him in the NFL. There's a reason he was Mr. Irrelevant. He needs to show and prove this year to me.